Hello and welcome to RWBY, a podcast where we discuss our thoughts on the latest episode of RWBY. I'm Danny.
And I'm Ashmanda.
And today we'll be discussing Volume 4, Chapter 6, Tipping Point. Before we begin, I will warn this is not a spoiler-free podcast.
Okay. Do you want to start us off, or do you want me to start us off?
Go ahead.
Let's see. Well, I wanted to... we're going to go through it pretty chronologically and go back to stuff that maybe we didn't cover. But for the most part, it's going to be in the order of how you see it. So when you open it, it's like RWBY, or Team Ranger, making their way to Haven. Forgot the name. And I wanted to point out that while there's been a few months, there's been that time skip, and RWBY and the crew seem to be getting a little... they all seem to be maturing a bit, but there's a nice little point or part in there where RWBY still has that level of immaturity, and she's still young because she thinks that she thought it was only going to take 2-3 weeks to get to Haven from home.
Yeah, I'd also, my first point was RWBY's innocence of her just being, not really aware of, how the world kind of is. She kind of, went head first into this, not really knowing what she's doing and kind of being yeah, let's do this.
It's still very much to her character.
Yeah.
She's still, when they were getting the, I forget what the actual thing was called, but when they're getting their teammates together, and she just dives in head first without considering things that adults would, like when they got attacked by the boars.
Yeah.
Episode 8 or whatever, chapter 8 or whatever, and Weiss had been overly prepared, but RWBY just dives head first. So I think it was a nice touch that, not a touch, but it's good on them for keeping the character in character.
Yeah, because she is still really young too, and so that shows.
The next point I want to bring up is dropping the map and the angle of the shot.
Yeah.
After rewatching it, this is the third time I've rewatched it, and I still feel like the map's important. It can go one of two ways. It feels like the map's an important part that it's going to come into play later in the plot, that, I don't know, maybe they're lost or something, or it was just one of those things where they're just to emphasize the urgency.
Yeah, it's you drop everything to go see that.
So I guess we'll see if they'll have the map next time.
Yeah, or if it's going to be hey, do you know where we are? And Jean's kind of and it's well, you're the one that has the map. It's well, about that. And it's you lost the map. And play out in that kind of comedic, worrisome scene of that. But yeah, I'd also had that written down because it seemed
It held just a little too long for it to be, but it could. Then again, it's just to really it could have just been a shot to really emphasize the point of their urgency. Yeah. It's just they drop it. Yeah, you said, they drop everything and run. And the map, it's a canted angle, and the map slowly floating down.
Yeah, because the thought that there could be survivors or something, it was okay, well, this is what we're trying to do.
Which brings me to my next interesting point, just something that, in my own brain, how it goes. So they get there and they realize it's Onayuri, and it's an unfinished town because of a specific grim, which I will talk more about after this thought. But Ren mentions that his parents thought it was going to be the way of the future.
Yeah.
So it really makes me question kind of a little bit more about Ren's backstory. I've always been curious, quite a quiet, reserved character who hanging out with Nora. It's very strange, but I love them. But it really makes me wonder. Ren's very confused. Ren doesn't realize what it is right away.
Yeah.
So either did his parents... I'm assuming his parents died there. Then I'm assuming he was given to some other family member or someone else to be taken care of.
So it seems like he knew the name, but he'd never been to the place himself, because that's why he didn't recognize it.
That was my... So, yeah.
Yeah. I'd just written down, I was what happened to Ren's parents?
Yeah, I have the... Ren parents have something to do with Onayuri.
Yeah.
And then he mentions a Grimm, and it seems it's a specific Grimm.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it's on the same levels of that sea serpent or that, what was it called? The dragon type thing from Volume 3.
I don't remember the exact name.
I don't either. that thing.
Yeah, because he does mention he's like 1 Grimm, and Ruby picks up on it, and she just goes 1, and he doesn't say anything about it. No one else picks up on it, and Jean's kind of like, let's get out of here, it's creepy, and they don't like talk about it, but Ruby's kind of like, what do you mean, like, this was 1 Grimm?
Yeah. Also, just a quick note on Nora, in that particular scene, is just like, I couldn't really tell if like her face is one of like sympathy, like, oh, Ren, I get it, or if it was one of like, this is the first time I'm hearing this kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Because that's how they're introduced, like, we've known each other forever.
Yeah. So it might be like, maybe he just never talked about it, so she's like, kind of like, why haven't you told me this, since we're close?
Yeah.
But
It felt more on like the sympathy kind of side of it, but like, at the same time, it very well could have been a look of like surprise.
Yeah.
Maybe. It's hard to tell. Are we done talking about that first little bit? Okay, so I wanted to talk about the transition from Ranger to
Weiss.
I really liked how her song was like really like eerie at first, so like it really matched the tone of leaving them, and then like the song itself, the lyrics is just, it's very much in the Weiss vein of being like, I'm in it comparatively from what you saw in the White trailer of her singing that song, or not singing that song, but like her singing, she seemed very like reserved, but in this one she seems more like she has more feeling in the words that she's singing, and if you pay attention to the words that she's singing, it's very much and what she proves later on in the episode is that like she doesn't want to be ruled by her father, and that's something that she's been kind of drilling home, or a point that's kind of been drilled home since Volume 3.
Yeah. I kind of had some similar things written down, just like about the words that she was singing and everything, and that, she, like, we get later that like she actually stands up like to her dad in a way too now.
Well, a lot of Weiss's songs have been like, I'm not your puppet anymore, and I think this is the season where we're finally gonna see some of that put into action.
Yeah.
Like, we already did see a little bit of that, which I thought was great. I loved Weiss. I loved every single part of this episode. There's not one, I mean, there may be 1 or 2 parts of it that, like, I wasn't super crazy about, but this entire episode was fantastic. I'll just talk about something slightly less serious when they're at the party and whatever, and she sneaks away.
Oh my god.
She sneaks away to check out the art. I just wanted to, I don't know who the artist was for any of those, but like the sculpture and the paintings, they were amazing.
Yeah.
I was trying to read the name on the bottom, and I have a very hard time reading cursive, so I didn't really see it.
Yeah, but also, can we talk about how Henry Marigold is is an awkward fuckboy? I have written down.
That is true. That is the kind of guy that if he approached me at a bar, I'd just be like, oh.
Yeah.
Like,
why? And like the level of disrespect too. That he's like, I just come here for the food and drink. I don't really know.
But I think it really says something about the group of people that Weiss is constantly surrounded by, and how she kind of was up until like the fall of Beacon.
Yeah. Like,
she was just one of those rich socialites that just like doesn't really care what the stupid events are for. She's just there to keep appearances and to like hang out, get free food, whatever. Yeah.
But now that this has personally affected her and her friends and stuff, it's like, it like kind of like in a way like opened your eyes to like, oh shit, like.
Yeah, like there's something more to her cushiony life.
Yeah.
But yeah, while I do hate Henry Marigold, I think he was a great person to have like a name to put to for like the kind of people that Weiss has to interact with. Yeah. And after coming back from Beacon, and with everything that happened and having to deal with that, it's just like, she can't do it anymore. Yeah. Which is really great.
And it was very well shown in that scene that she's just like, she can't just stand there and listen to her dad talk bad about Faunus's and talk bad about like the...
It's not even like, I mean, yeah, he was talking bad, but he was doing it in that very like diplomatic kind of way, and it's just like, well, I provided all these jobs, and I can't believe we're talking about the economic disparity of all these
and he's like, oh, well,
I'm marginalized groups.
Oh, well, I'm the good guy. Or,
he even at one point even says, it's like, it still sounds like I'm the good guy.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you're such an asshole.
like great job on the writing and just everything about her dad, because like right from the get-go, before we even met him, I hated him. And I still, now that we have met him, I still really hate him.
Yeah.
And just one more point I wanted to make about, well, there's a few more points, but before we steer too far away from it, I just wanted to talk about, like, comparatively through volumes. Like, I know they just switched programs that they used to animate. I don't know the name offhand. But the facial expressions and the nonverbal body language and everything, for this whole season so far, for this whole volume so far, has just been, like, it's been really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably a more elegant way to say than it's been really, really good, but, like, it's just, I'm feeling so much more connected to the characters.
Yeah.
Now that, like, it wasn't that it was lacking, it's just something I hadn't noticed until I saw it. Is it, like, the facial expressions and the...
I think this animation program gives them more freedom to do that kind of stuff, too. So.
Yeah. Plus, it looks like the lighting of it's really good.
Oh, yeah. They've definitely improved, and they just keep getting better.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what they've got next. Oh, okay. So I wanted to bring on to the point, after she was talking to that, socialite mole lady.
I noticed her mole, too. I was going to say the lady with the mole.
I wish that wasn't the only part of her that I could pinpoint, but it's pretty much it. That was a big mole. That was like Austin Powers 3 level mole. Anyways, after Weiss had a little freak out and like her dad was trying to stop her from embarrassing the family.
Yeah.
I just had a really interesting, like, I'm wondering if it's like a PTSD kind of thing for Weiss, because she was able to summon stuff at the end of Volume 3.
Yeah.
But now she's summoning stuff, and it was a white Grimm.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, because of the way she was feeling, if that's why it was a Grimm at all.
Yeah.
Like, normally it's that like, paladin knight guy, but, like, or just his arm.
And she, like, definitely did not expect that to happen, too.
Yeah. She was scared.
Yeah.
So, and I'm wondering, because we don't know a ton about, like, the rules of semblances and stuff, and it, like, and everyone was very scared. Yeah. Understandably so. But, like, it felt, I don't know, the fact that it was a Grimm. I think it was the Borgrim from Peter Port's lesson that she had to fight in, like, in Volume 1 in class.
Maybe. It's been a long time since I've seen Volume 1, so.
But yeah. I mean, like, not that that's, like, the only thing, but it's just, like, the fact that it was a Grimm instead of something else, and she seemed scared by it, too.
Yeah, and she was, like, oh man, I didn't mean to do that, you know?
Yeah, the fear could just stem from, like, whoops.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like she's still, given the few months, she doesn't know the extent of her powers anymore, because I assume her father hasn't really allowed her to do very much fighting.
Yeah, and it seems like these people have not been exposed to that either, because she was like, oh man, she's a freak, she needs to be, like, locked up.
Arrest her!
Yeah. It's just like, well, first of all, you don't have a place to really say that. This is Weiss Schnee, like, but,
Weiss Schnee, heiress of the Schnee Dust Company. Okay, and that brings me on to another point. Ironwood. It's possible theory, that, I don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know what's gonna happen to Weiss next episode. Like, her dad is very clearly angry.
Yeah, she's gonna be punished in some way.
I feel like cut off from socializing outside of her. He might just lock her in a room, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, yikes.
And I feel like Ironwood's gonna be the one that is going to help her.
Yeah, kind of, because, you know, he's like, well, she's the only one that's making sense around here, you know.
Like, that, my possible theory is that Ironwood is going to be helping Weiss out in some kind of major way. later on in the season.
Yeah, it seemed like that's what that alluded to by,
Yeah, some foreshadow.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if I keep getting his name wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Ironwood. That's all I have to say about the party. But let's talk a little bit about going back to Ranger.
Yeah.
Loved the shot of Ren. Like, it was just the hair blowing and everything.
Yeah, and it's like the stop, I hear something.
It was so epic. Like, it just, and also just, like, Ren's redesign, I'm just in love with it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I was gonna say, I'm a fan of Tyrion so far. Like, I don't know, I like his swiftness and his craziness. Like, I like it. I like his design.
My note says, crazy but kind of awesome.
Yeah. So, definitely the craziness, but...
It's always fun to have that, like, off-hinge kind of character. And for a while, it was just Torchwick that was that kind of off-hinge kind of character. But he was, like, a more composed one. Tyrion just, he doesn't care. He's just crazy.
Yeah.
There was an interesting part, a lot of interesting parts. First, I'm going to talk about the, when he's talking about the goddess. Like, as an audience member, I always forget Ruby and the gang don't know about, Salem.
Yeah.
So this is their first inkling that there's something bigger than Cinder.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ruby picked up on that. I don't know if any of them picked up on that.
Well, because when she said Cinder, and then he said, like, in her dreams or something.
Yeah, only in her wildest dreams.
Yeah. Don't know if they could hear that from the distance.
Exactly, that's what I was saying. Like, we didn't really get to see, like, any kind of facial expression, because, I mean, he attacked immediately after that.
Like, we as an audience heard, but we don't know if they, as characters, heard.
Yeah, and we've already learned a little bit about Salem, so, like, they don't even have a name to this goddess that Tyrion speaks of.
Yeah.
But backpedal it for a second. When Tyrion shows up and he is, going down the list, like, doesn't matter to you, blah, 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 and, like, I'm gonna whisk her away. I thought it was really interesting that Nora was the first one to stand up for Ruby. Like, I don't know if that was an intentional thing or, like, to show their closeness, because I haven't really seen a lot of closeness between Nora and Ruby, but, like, because Nora was the very first one to be like, what if I don't remember the line.
But what if she doesn't want to go with you?
Yeah, something along those lines. Like, I thought it was really interesting that it was Nora instead of Jean.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Like, Jean does come in second, but
maybe he was also taken aback because Tyrion was like, you interest me, and he was kind of like
I feel like enough time had passed between that.
True.
Between that line and standing in front of Ruby. I don't know if it was intentional or not. I just thought it was interesting that it was Nora first. It could have just also been she was closest.
Yeah.
That could have been it. The fight scene was great.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel that... I didn't want to say it at the beginning of the season, but the fight scene seemed a little lackluster, and I get that you no longer have the direction of Monty's really kick-ass fighting choreograph scenes. And I think they're doing really, really well so far, but it doesn't have that certain Monty feel, but I feel like this one really amped it up from the one in the beginning. Don't get me wrong, the first fight scene that opened our volume was really good. It just didn't have that same
feeling.
Yeah, it didn't have that same feeling to it. It was something that, like, I picked up on. I don't know if other people picked up on it.
I feel like this specific fight scene was definitely better, though.
Yeah, it felt more, I don't know, more intense, less wasted movement and standing around.
Yeah.
There still was a fair amount of just standing around, but that just happens all the time and everything. I wanted to talk a little bit about Tyrion's possible semblance. What are those red lines? When he hits them, what are those red lines? They look kind of like veins, or like, because he's a scorpion faunus, like, he didn't hit any of them with his tail, which I'm assuming is going to be pretty deadly. Maybe has a poison. But I feel like his semblance has something like, Ruby couldn't move after she was kicked in the stomach.
That's true.
And, like, I'm curious what it is. I'm wondering if we're going to get an explanation later on.
Hopefully.
if it's gonna hinder them later on, if it is some kind of, like, poison type thing.
Yeah.
Or, like, I don't know, in a lot of action-y type movie stuff, there was always those, like, I blocked your chi, and like you can't use your stuff anymore.
So maybe some people have, because like it was very emphasized when he kicked her in the stomach.
But it wasn't the first time it showed up.
True.
It showed up right off the bat when he attacked with his.
I just mean like it affecting RWBY.
Yes, but it did happen to. It happened the most intense to RWBY, so it probably would only happen to her, if something happened. But it had happened to Nora, I think. Maybe. I don't know. It was shown a couple times, so I'm not sure. But yeah, anything else on the Tyrion fight? Nora, Ren, Jon?
I just thought it was neat that he's a scorpion faunus, because I wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, I guess that can be a thing.
When I first watched the episode, I was very confused. Just the way his tail moved, I had no idea what kind of faunus he could be. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting tail. But, I mean, clearly I caught on after that initial tail whipping.
Like, his hair looks like his tail as well.
Yeah, okay, so when I had first watched it, I'm like, is he like some kind of like horse faunus? Like, that he like braided his tail. No, he's a scorpion faunus, and I'm just dumb. But it was good. It was a nice reveal. I really liked it. One of the few male characters that I wish would keep a shirt on. One of the few. I'm not a fan of crazy, scarred up abs. Not his, at least. Maybe someone else, but not his.
Nice.
And lastly, I just wanted to talk about the it felt kind of touching at the end with the relief and happiness on Ruby's face when Crow saved her.
Yeah, she's like, oh man, Uncle Crow's here.
Yeah. Cause I don't know, maybe she was feeling a lot of uneasiness. Like, just that face of relief was just like, aw, sweet summer child.
Yeah.
She actually is a summer child.
So, like, Tyrion's tail, like, went into, like, his sword, right?
Yes. I was a little worried. I kept trying to really pay attention to that scene, because I'm like, oh, what if it, like, went in between? It actually stabbed Crow in the back, and he's actually dead next episode. That would suck.
Yeah. But I think it's just his sword.
Sword, gun, scythe thing.
Yeah.
Sword, gun, scythe.
His weapon.
Yes. But yeah, Crow also seemed kind of happy that he was... It could have just been, like, he made it in time, and that's what he was happy about. But also maybe, like, I can finally reveal myself to them. I don't know why I've been secretly following them instead of helping them outwardly. I'll just do it from the shadows.
Well, probably,
like a bird.
Probably to try to give RWBY confidence that, like, and the team confidence of, like, oh yeah, we can do this. We can handle this on our own. Look at how far we've come on our own. Yeah. And gotta give them the confidence while he's, secretly been taking care of the Grimm. To protect them. Because then if you reveal themselves and it's like, wow, we haven't really accomplished anything. Why did we come all the way?
Well, now they're also... But they're going to reveal that now.
True.
Because he did make it very easy for them.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's going to play out
later.
They're
probably just going to have like a conversation like, hey, I was, I had to look out for you. I was worried about you. And there probably will be that kind of like, but we wanted to do this by ourselves. Yeah.
Well, I don't even know if they wanted to do it by themselves. It's just something that they had to do.
True.
I don't know. We'll see how things pan out next episode, I guess.
I'm really curious as to why, like, so, like, he flew really fast, and then he, like, changed to running, and then, like, ran there. It's like, why didn't he just, like, fly the whole time, and then change when he got there?
I have a follow-up question to that. Does his sword transform with him?
It must, because, like, you didn't see a giant-ass sword on that bird's back.
How epic would that have been, though? How incredible would that have been? I would have been so fucking happy.
Yeah. But I guess, obviously he felt that he had to reveal himself because this is a much larger, like, threat than just taking out some Grimm,
Yeah. Well, this is something actually serious.
Yeah.
As opposed to just some Grimm. Meh. Grimm.
Well, I mean, Grimm can be, like, really bad, but,
Grimm.
But it's still, like, this new...
From what we've seen, the only things following them were the, what are they called? Beowulfs?
Yeah, something like that.
There was probably more that I just missed. But yeah, it's a super easy journey.
All right, well, I think that's where we're going to end for today's episode of RWBY. If you have any comments or anything that you saw that maybe we missed out on, or something maybe you disagreed with or agreed with, feel free to leave comments below, and if we really like your ideas or whatever, we might mention them in another episode and bring it up.
Because, honestly, I love to hear other people's thoughts and theories on, like, most things, and especially, like, a show like RWBY, where there's just a lot, there's so many stories going on, especially with this season, because everyone's separate, like...
And it's been a while since I've rewatched the series, too, so there might have been, like, clues that were kind of, like, leading back to old things, or something that happened in the past, so you're like, oh, well, this is because of this, and that I just completely missed. So, again, just feel free to leave any comments below, and,
thanks for listening.
Yeah, exactly. See ya.
Bye.